guys, we got this. Let's go. Gun white trip sweep. Pros X go. On one. Ready?
Hey.
What up though, guys? Welcome to another Ask Boogz video here on the Huddle YouTube channel. And on this video, we're going to be talking about zone depths. Shout out to my guy Timothy Thomas for asking today's video. He said, do you have a video that details zone depths and how and when to adjust them? Well, Timothy, shout out to you, man. Appreciate your question. I'm going to answer that and try to give you the best detail I can in today's video. But before we get into any of that, make sure you guys check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/BugattiBoogz. I'm probably live right now. Come through, check me out. Let me know how you're feeling about this content. And if you just want to further connect with me, that's another place where you can connect with me. I also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Boogz. But let's get into this video, man. Guys, one big thing that you need to understand about zone depths and the zone drops is honestly the most valuable tool that EA has given us in this year's Madden. Being able to say that I'm going to set my zones, my flats, either purple or blue or yellow zones. The yellow zones guard the middle of the field, purple zones guard, or curl flats guard the outsides, the flat areas and stuff like that. And then so does the flats, which are the blue ones, the cloud flat, squat flat, hard flat. Purples are curl flat, seam flat, quarter flats. It just depends on what coverage you're in. But for you to have those zones and be able to tell those zones to guard certain areas of the field are super, super valuable, because now a lot of those rollout corner routes that we dealt with in Madden 20, or those deep corner routes that we just never had an answer for, this now solves that problem, because now we can say, all right, I don't care what you see on the field, your responsibility is to guard 5 yards, 10 yards, 15, 20, and so forth, all the way up to 30 yards. And that's the beauty of this year's Madden. And that's one of the things that I love most. So now it just really comes down to understanding how these zones work, or which routes are going to go to which area of the field. So that's the biggest thing. Now you want to understand. So one of the things I love to do is for crossing routes, you want to have, put it like this. You want to have, just in case you have the Mabel coverage, which is 2 flats, where you have one flat guarding low and one flat guarding a little higher. You want to have your zone drops set to either, you want to either have one set to default and one set to a higher zone drop, or you want to have one set high and one set lower. So what I mean by that is, I'm just going to pick PA counter go here, a very popular play out of the trips tight end formation. And what I'm going to do is go down, already kind of have it preset. I have my curl flat set here to 20, and I have my flat set to 10. I could also set my flats to default. That way now my zones aren't overridden by the zone drop depth. So now if I put a hard flat, it's going to play like a hard flat. If I put a cloud flat, it's going to play like a true cloud flat. If I play a squat flat, it's going to play like a true squat flat. That is completely overridden once you take it off of default. Once you put the zone drop, no matter which zone you put, if it's one of those blue zone, hard flat, cloud flat, or squat flat, it is going to override and is going to go exactly to the zone depth that you tell it to go to. So, which is fine. You just need to know that ahead of time. So one thing I like to do, if I'm going to set one of them to default, I prefer it to be the flats, just because you have a little bit more variety. You can have a hard flat, or you can switch it to a hard flat, and you know what a hard flat is going to do. It's going to guard hard and low. It's going to guard that 0 to 5 yard range, whereas a cloud flat is going to kind of guard that 10 to 15 yard range. And then squat flat is going to kind of play kind of similar to a cloud flat. However, it also has match responsibilities, where it will tend to match onto certain routes and stuff like that if there is no flat responsibility. So what we're going to do for the sake of this video, because we're focused more on the zone depths, we're going to put the flats at 10 for this play right here. I don't typically use my hook curls. I like to leave my hooks on default. Hooks are your mid reads, your hook curls, your vert hooks, and your 3 rec hooks. I don't like to change the zone drops on those. Those are the yellow zones that guard the middle of the field. I typically like to leave those all on default because I want them to do their default natural responsibilities. So I leave those alone for me personally. But if you want to change them, you can do that as well. You can put them as low at like 0 or 5. I recommend you don't use 0 ever for your hooks. Worst case scenario, lowest 5. But if you know your opponent keeps hitting you with, let's say, a post over the middle of the field every play, then you can put your hook curls at 10 or 15, and now that hook curl is going to be in the way of that post route, and you can kind of take it away and make it to where they now can't make that throw. So that's one thing you can most definitely do with your hook curls. Me personally, I just, with them at default, they kind of do kind of the same thing. They may, sometimes you may have a post that gets a little bit deeper. But now let's go into the actual play. So we got our purples at 20 and we have our flats at 10. The reason why you want to have one low and one high, because like I said, sometimes you may have the Mabel coverage, which is where you have a double flat and you guard 2 areas of the field. So for the sake of this video though, what we're going to do is we're going to put the purple, and that purple, what it is going to do is it is going to sit perfectly in a good spot to where it's guarding the crossing route. When you have that 20-yard depth, I like to use purples. You can flip and switch them if you like. You can have the curl flats at 5 or 10 and the flats at 20, or it's up to you. I personally like to use the curl flats at 20 yards or more and the flats as my lower zone depth, but it's completely up to you. It doesn't matter which one you do. So here you're going to see that you have your purples at 20. They sit in a very good spot to where they kind of take away crossing routes, corner routes, and things of that nature. And they sit in a really good spot to where now it makes the throw really hard for the user or for the offense to be able to complete a pass in their area or into their zone. You see how he just sits perfectly there. And if I had 4 hands, I would have been able to click on there and pick off that pass right there with my other controller. So you guys can see it. I'm going to go to the replay really quickly and show you exactly what I mean. Right there, crossing route, beat that man. But what's the problem? They can't throw it because we have our purple sitting 20 yards deep. Those numbers, it's a indicator of how many yards they're going to go back. So if it's at 5, they're going to go 5 yards back, 10 yards, and so forth. So he goes right back. His responsibility is to guard 20 yards deep and guard the flat area, which is the sidelines. They guard the sidelines. And as a user, when you're using on defense, you don't want to have to run all the way to this far down the field, all the way to the sideline. You want to be able to set your adjustments and set your zones to take those away. So that's the beauty of the zone depth. You can now set your zone depth. So now that you are never running to the sidelines guarding a crossing route because you have your zone drop set in a way to where it's going to take that away. Like I said, if I could click on, I would have been able to click on. If that was an actual real game, I would have been able to click on there and pick that off, and then it would have been great defense. So that's the biggest thing. You want to be able to take away the sidelines, and whatever routes your opponent likes to throw that's going towards the sideline, you want to be able to take that away without your user having to run over there. So that's the beauty of the zone depths. I like I said, I like 20. Sometimes if you're going against an opponent that has deeper routes that goes maybe 5 yards deeper, then you need to boost it back to 25 yards to make it a little bit better so that he can take away maybe that deep crossing route or that deep corner route. Maybe they have a super deep corner route that just gets wide open over your 20 yard, or maybe sometimes I've had opponents where I've had to change it to 30 yards. So it really just depends on your opponent. But as a general, what I like to do when I first jump into a game, I leave my zones on default and let my opponent run maybe 2 to 3 plays first so I can see what kind of routes they're throwing and what they're doing. If they're not doing anything special, then you leave everything at default. But if you see they're hitting you with like crossing routes, deep post routes and stuff like that, then that's when you change it. And I first like to start off As a general rule of thumb, I like to use the 20 yards and 5 to 10 on the other route or the other zone to keep them low. Sometimes I go 5, but like against like a trips tight end, sometimes you may have to go 10 because let's say a route like this, that short corner out to the tight end, you're going to see he is going to stay underneath that purple zone. You see how that purple zone is out of position. He can't guard that tight end corner out because he's too deep. He's at 20 yards. So now that's where the beauty of having my flats at 10. So now if I do something like that, a Mabel, now that corner out is not going to be open because that flat's going to sit perfectly in a great spot to where now you can't throw that corner out. So that's the reason why you want to have one lower and one higher. If they aren't throwing like little corner routes like that, then you may want to go with like a 5-yard flat. Especially if you're playing more zone coverage, you may want to have a 5-yard flat. If you're playing man coverage, you can go with a 10 because when you're playing man, you have man, everybody's a hat on a hat. So now it doesn't matter to have somebody super low at 5 yards or 0 yards because everybody's being accounted for anyway. But if you're in the zone coverage, you may want to have a lower 5 or 0. Typically, I love 5. I don't never really like to go 0 because when you go 0, it's too easy to throw routes right over the top of those 0 zones. So that's one thing you want to also keep in mind is that you want to make sure that you have those zones 5 yards, like 5 yards, maybe 10 if you're playing zone defense. For your short zones, your short flat zones, whether it's curl flat or regular flats, 5 is a great number though for zone defense. Man coverage, 10 is a good number. 20 is a great number for the deeper routes. That's always the great rule of thumb, whether you're playing zone or man coverage. So once again, Timothy, hopefully this helped you to understand zone depths and how and when to use them a little bit better. Let me know if you have any more questions. You can always hit me up on Twitter as well. My @ is @Boogz on Twitter. You can also hit me up there if you have questions, or anybody that's watching this video, you can hit me up there. Once again, I appreciate you guys for watching this video. I hope that this was useful and valuable to you guys, and I'm going to continue to bring you guys the best possible content I can think of, or the best possible content I can give you guys per you guys' questions. So check you guys next week. Appreciate you for watching.